Hello and welcome to Ukraine Today. I'm Volodymyr Solohub. On May 18th, Ukrainian parliament appointed a new Prosecutor General, Mr. Yuriy Lutsenko, a close ally of President Poroshenko. As part of his top priorities, Mr. Lutsenko vowed to finally bring to justice those responsible for the killing of the Euromaidan activists in the center of Kyiv more than 2 years ago. Joining me now to discuss the progress in these cases and hopes for the future is the lawyer for some of the families of Euromaidan victims, Mr. Markiyan Halabala. Mr. Halabala, welcome to Ukraine Today.
Hello.
So, Mr. Halabala, can you tell us what has been the progress in these cases since the last time we spoke with you several months ago?
There is a progress, like the main court hearing that is in the Sviatoshinsky district court of Kyiv is in progress. Now it is the stage of the considering of this case when the evidences are discussed by the parties of this this court hearing. There is also the progress in the investigating of another criminal proceeding regarding the creating by the Yanukovych the organized crime organization, gathering evidences in this criminal proceeding. There is also progress, but generally like there are a lot of obstacles. There are still a lot of problems in this very case, but I believe that soon we will receive the verdict in the case of the killing of the protesters on the 20th of February 2014.
Mr. Halabala, this case has been handled for more than 2 years by the investigators of the General Prosecutor's Office. And the NGOs, the families of the victims were complaining that the cases have been dragging for way too long. And now with the appointment of the new General Prosecutor, and I know the new Prosecutor General had already a meeting with the lawyers for the families of the Euromaidan victims. In that meeting, did you hear some positive messages from the General Prosecutor, and do you have hope that now the cases will go faster?
Well, I'd like to say two things. First thing that as soon as Yuriy Lutsenko was appointed on the post, there was a draft law in the Parliament of Ukraine regarding the changing of the procedure in absentia. It is a procedure when the guilty person is not present in the court, and we are talking about Yanukovych. Since he is in Russia today, now it's possible under Ukrainian investigation to bring him before the court in his absence. Now this procedure will start since this law came into force.
But is former President Yanukovych also charged with the ordering of the killings?
Sure,
and is there enough evidence to prove that in court?
Well, regarding these facts, the evidence are still gathering. There are facts, especially his telephone conversation, his telephone calls. So there are some evidences, but still they are gathering, yeah. But there are a lot of other crimes which were committed by the Yanukovych. Regarding the stealing money on Ukrtelecom company, there are another proceeding where he can be found guilty. For example, in the Sukholucha, it is the residence of the former President Yanukovych, not far from the Kyiv. He also can be found guilty in those proceedings.
Yeah, but Mr. Halabala, what about the case of the Euromaidan victims? Are there hopes that, because there currently is, if I remember correctly from our last discussion, currently there are several separate cases pending trial in the courts in Kyiv. Some of the defendants are the former Berkut members who were actually the members of the riot police who fought against the protesters, and some of them are now on trial. So what about these cases? And I believe that, I would imagine that the families of the victims would like to see these guys being tried for what they have done. Is there hope that these cases will be closed pretty soon?
I think that this case we are talking about on the murdering on 20th of February, the verdict will be in the end of this year, I believe. So there are a lot of other court hearing regarding, for example, ex-head of the security service of Ukraine in the Kyiv city. He's also his case is also heard by the Pechersky District Court. There are proceedings on the ex-city mayor of Kyiv, the Popov. His case is hearing in Shevchenkivsky District Court. So I believe that up to the end of this year we will receive verdicts in some of these cases, and a lot of them will be passed, as I have mentioned before, regarding those persons who escaped from Ukraine. Who are in Crimea and the Russian Federation, including those Berkut policemen who escaped the same. We are also talking about the high officials. It's Zakharchenko, it's ex-security service of Ukraine head Yakimenko. Regarding them are also pending investigation, and the General Prosecutor Office are gathering evidences.
Mr. Halabala, but can you explain to us what will be the legal significance of finding these individuals who escaped Ukraine guilty? Obviously, we all know that most likely, most of them, they are in Russia, and we all know that Russia will not hand over these individuals to Ukraine. Some of these individuals have been on the Interpol watch list, hence nothing happened. So why bother? Why try them here in Ukraine? Why do you need that?
Well, you know, it's a normal international practice in foreign countries. This procedure is also present. So now, generally, it's okay, because even if the person escaped from Ukraine, he or she shall be found guilty if there are evidences. Yes.
But what happens next? Okay, they are found guilty.
Okay.
What's next?
As soon as some of the country will catch them, I'm not talking about, for example, Russia. As soon as they, for example, look on to Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan or European country, and they can be catched there and then extradited to Ukraine, and they be put into the prison. Because besides, I would like to say that we are active in the direction of the investigation by the International Criminal Court, because they also have the possibility to give the warrants for searching Yanukovych and his command, and it's also will be one of the international win of Ukraine, because...
Well, you hope for that, because the International Criminal Court has not even started open an investigation.
Yeah, sure, but we are working on that.
Only opening on the preliminary stage.
Yeah, but we are working in the direction. It's also one of the very helpful instruments that can be used to bring Yanukovych and his team to justice.
If we could go back to the courts, to the cases which are pending in Ukrainian courts, I assume that you, as the lawyer for the victims, you're working alongside with the prosecutors who are building the case against the defendants. What would you say about the work of the prosecutors? Are you satisfied with what they're doing, or would you like to see them do more?
It depends on the case. You know, as far as you know, we call it in Ukraine two terms opposite: zrada and peremoga, like win and betray. Yes, in some cases really is the win, and in other cases is betray. It depends on the prosecutor and depends on the investigator who is responsible for that very case. For example, I think the success story is the story of investigating those murders on 20th of February, because a prosecutor has succeeded to gather the evidences. But we gotta fail, in example, for making a legal decision by the courts of Ukraine regarding protesters, regarding Euromaidan protesters, regarding guys who have been put to the custody. The courts are still, we got no success.
But basically it's not up to the
verdicts.
It's not up to the prosecution. It's up to the court system itself and reform of the judiciary.
Yeah, but sure. But I believe that if the prosecutor were more active, even more aggressive, I think that they can be found some real evidences regarding the guilty of the judges. You know.
Do you expect that now, with the arrival with the appointment of the new Prosecutor General, this will change?
I believe. I hope.
You are also having another meeting with Mr. Lutsenko sometime soon. What are you expecting to hear at that meeting?
Well, we got a very concrete agenda, the question we are going to discuss, and it's a working agenda, and I think that the main thing is that he is ready to communicate. It's very significant in this very case, and I believe that we will achieve success in them.
Well, we can only wish you best of luck, and we'll be following this story really closely. Mr. Halabala, thank you for finding the time to come and talk to us. We were discussing the developments in the criminal case regarding the killing of the Euromaidan activists here in Kyiv more than 2 years ago with the lawyer for some of the families of the Euromaidan victims, Mr. Markiyan Halabala. I'm Volodymyr Sologub. Thank you for watching Ukraine Today.